Is there any further discussion on the gentleman's bill? There being no further discussion of the bill, the committee will move to consideration of amendments. Does any member wish to offer an amendment? Mr. Castro.
Thank you. I have a Castro Amendment number 1.
The clerk shall distribute the amendment. The clerk shall report the amendment.
Amendment to the amendment in the nature of a substitute to H.R. 3774, offered by Mr. Castro of Texas. Page 2, line 10, insert the subsection G after subsection E2. Page 9, after...
Without objection, further reading of the amendment is dispensed with. The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes on the amendment.
Thank you. I offer this amendment because my concerns that the sanctions described in this bill would significantly raise the price of gas back home in my hometown of San Antonio and all of our hometowns. The primary and secondary sanctions in this bill are sweeping and extensive, and there's a reason they've never been done before. They target our adversaries and our allies in Europe, in Asia, and around the world. My amendment is straightforward. Before the sanctions in the bill are implemented, it requires the U.S. Government Accountability Office to conduct a study on the effect of the bill's sanctions on the price of gas. The sanctions in the bill would be able to be implemented if that review finds that the sanctions would not raise the price of gas in the United States, and the President certifies a concurrence with that report. As I'm sure my colleagues can agree, the price of gas is higher every day and our constituents face the pain. Rising gas prices means families have to make difficult decisions between the fuel needed to drive to work and the food to put on their table, medicines they need to pay for, rent they need to pay for, and so forth. If we adopt this amendment, we ensure that our efforts do not harm our constituents when the sanctions go into effect. Passing this legislation without this amendment is effectively voting to raise the price of gas for American families. I urge my colleagues to support this amendment. With that, I yield back.
Gentleman yields, and I'll recognize myself for 5 minutes. I oppose the gentleman's amendment. I oppose it because it sends precisely the wrong message to the world and proceeds on a false assumption that the ability of the Iranian regime to sell oil somehow results in lower domestic gasoline prices. It does not. First, nothing is worse for global oil prices than an enriched and emboldened Iranian regime that seeks to spread terror and instability throughout the Middle East. Second, American refineries are not configured to use Iranian oil, but Chinese refineries are. More Iranian oil means cheaper fuel for China, not lower gasoline prices for the United States. If we want, as I said before, if we want to get serious about lower gasoline prices in the United States, we need to increase domestic production. My friend, the ranking member, says that production is high. We need more production. We need H.R. 1. We need more production, more domestic production now more than ever because of the situation in the Middle East. We do not need to empower an Iranian regime that supports terrorist groups like Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Again, it is fascinating to me, the hypocrisy of the very members of Congress who are so alarmed at climate change, so alarmed at elevated global emissions. But when it comes to Iranian oil, more is better. Fossil energy from Iran, good. Fossil energy from the United States, bad. Come on, let's get serious. We need to punish Iran and the sources of financing Hamas now, immediately, yesterday, and we need to cut off the financing for this horrific terrorist attack against our key ally. And if you're worried about global energy markets, my goodness, stop your war on domestic American energy. I yield. Do any other members seek recognition? Mr. Meeks is recognized.
Thank you. And I will say we do produce more oil today than ever. We also sanction. We don't take in any or purchase any Iranian oil in the United States of America. So the reason why I support Mr. Castro's amendment, because it requires the Comptroller General of the United States to conduct a study and submit to the appropriate congressional committees a report on the effect these proposed sanctions will have on the price of gasoline in the United States. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, the impact on global energy markets following implementation of this policy could be severe. And I believe this reporting will help both Congress and the administration make better policy decisions that I hope will work. And I'm a firm believer that unilateral sanctions generally don't work. It's multilateral sanctions that work. And it's getting the rest of the world working collectively together in regards to having effective sanctions. And with that, I intend on supporting and ask all to support Mr. Castro's amendment.
Does the gentleman yield back?
I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. Do any other members seek recognition? The gentleman from Florida, Mr. Mass, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you for recognizing me. I appreciate the gentleman's amendment, and I'll say it's something certainly to think about and consider. I will. And I will simply say, as has been pointed out already, that I hope yourself and some others also take the time to apply that same rationale to the Biden administration's policies on domestic oil production and ask that question for yourselves. Will it not raise the price of refined gasoline in the United States of America, as is outlined in Part A, lines 14 and 15 in this? I think it's food for thought for all of us, whether we're talking about domestic policy or foreign policy, but thank you for giving me something to think about.
The gentleman yields back. Do any other members seek recognition? Mr. Phillips from Minnesota, you have 5 minutes.
Not on the, I have an amendment at the desk. Yeah, sorry.
We'll save that for just one moment. Any other members wish to speak on Mr. Castro's amendment? Seeing none, there being no further discussion, the question now occurs on the amendment offered by Representative Castro